Blood Angels lore. What's up, everybody? We're back talking about lore, I guess. I do a bunch of videos about the game itself and like number values and whatnot. Like, let's talk about lore. The most badass Space Marine factions. And number one, the Blood Angels. Why are they the number one? We'll get into it. And as you'll figure out, in my mind, top 5 most badass Space Marine factions in 40k is kind of a small field of separation. Maybe between 5 and number 1, there's a large gap, but between number 1 and number 2, maybe not so huge, right? First off, there's the dead Primarch himself, Sanguinius of the Blood, hero of the Empire! He gave himself for the citizens of the galaxy, for you and me, so that we can live on without experiencing the perfidy of the traitor Horus Lupercal, the favored son turned away, and the most perfect son laid low. That is actually one of the most dramatic and, for me, poignant moments in 40k, is when, Sanguinius is on he's on Terra like, I will go myself and face Horus, even though he wasn't on Terra, he was located onto the ship, whatever. He was supposed to be with Doran and Biggie himself. That's another story entirely. He faces Horus, the powered up Primarch who had spent countless years in the war conquering untold worlds alone. Is there a David and Goliath situation more? I mean, yes, we will get into it, as one of his sons himself faces up against a similarly unbeatable challenge. Horus Lupercal kills his brother. Sanguinius dies. And into perpetuity, the Black Rage is marked upon the Blood Angels. This is one of the most badass things of any Space Marine chapter ever. These fuckers lose their mind. They can't tell brother from, Space Marine brother from Chaos Space Marine from a rock on the ground. And they think they're Sanguinius facing Horus himself. And they start to really just try to kill everything around them, whether it be a hapless civilian or their chapter master even. Horus Lupercal wasn't the only great demon and monstrous chaos beast that was faced, that Sanguinius faced himself. He also fought Kabanda. And Kabanda they say imparted the red thirst upon the Space Marines, but I don't know if I buy that one exactly, because Kabanda was there after the red thirst, as far as I recall in the lore. I could be wrong, but as far as I recall from what books I've read of the Horus Heresy, the red thirst was around before Kabanda. But the red thirst is a unquenchable thirst for battle and blood. It is illustrated as like a Space Marine depression, where they're just like, everything sucks, wanna kill shit. So, combine this with the Black Rage, you have an insanely badass berserker granted somewhat of the power of Sanguinius, out thirsting for blood, that cannot tell the difference between friend or foe, and lives in a death struggle against his brother. Such monstrous beasts are locked in the Tower of Amareo, which was opened on the final day of Baal's life. The devastation of Baal came, and this is the cardinal achievement, we'll say. The Blood Angels have been in many places, done many badass things. But the devastation of Baal is, in my mind, one of the most badass things that's happened in 40K. They met High Fleet Kraken on the field of battle with 20,000 Blood Angels of Radiant Chapters, Knights of Sanguinius, Blood Drinkers, Flesh Terrors, Blood Angels themselves, all the brothers of Baal, all of the lineage of the mighty angel assembled on the planet to face off against the scourge of the universe, the great devourer itself, made of unquenchable hunger and the end of worlds. The Blood Angels met this with Blade and Bolter, Fire and Fury. This is where Dante secured himself as the most badass non-Primarch, hands down, and put his chapter in the #1 spot for most badass chapters. Dante faced off against the Swarm Lord himself, mano a mano, after countless battles in patched up armor. After losing his mind mid-battle, in the realm of Khorne, he climbed in endless piles of skulls to the realm of Khorne, only to meet the Swarm Lord, who he thought was Horus Lupercal, momentarily due to madness. He was going fucking crazy. He won, gored atop a sword, chanting his death. He blew the Swarm Lord's face off with the Perdition Pistol. Even in death does duty end. Only in death does duty end, but not so much for Dante. However, he did not die. On Bal Secundus, I think it was Primus, the Blood Angels stood, the Flesh Terrors stood with the Knights of Blood. Centaur Jewel secures himself as the second most badass Space Marine, standing up against the bloodthirster Kabanda. Kabanda, who beat his Primarch in a one-on-one duel. If you lose to Kabanda as Sanguinius, what chance does Centaur Jewel, a mere chapter master, have? Yet he yelled his fury and gave his final testament. On this planet was Gabriel Seth, whose duties and exploits have been quite logged. Master of the Flesh Terrors, wielder of a giant Chain Reaper. He is a badass himself. He is rage personified. Not to mention, you know, the other characters, Brother Corbulo, Asterath, and their head chapter master, their chaplain, which I cannot. We will check our notes. Mephiston! Man, these in themselves are badasses, unbelievable badasses that can do ridiculous things. Fielding a legion, only second to what Sanguinius himself led. Dante not only bested the Tyranids in one-on-one combat with the Swarm Lord atop a pile of skulls speared on a sword. He killed the High Fleet. He killed Kraken. He did the major damage with 20,000 Blood Angels. They punched it in the face and killed it. There's many other deeds, such as their landing on Armageddon and fighting through the first Orc invasion there. Many other feats that we can go into endless recountings of. Say, the charge of the Tower of Amareo, just in the devastation of Baal itself. They have been in countless battles. Every major battle in the Imperium has featured some Blood Angels. So, do they deserve the number 1 spot? Their Primarch died 10,000 years ago. They struggle against not only their own minds, like the Flesh Terrors, but they struggled against the great predator of 40k. And they live to this day as the greatest of heroes. I think they're number 1. I'll catch you in the next one.